Welcome back, guys. Continuing our Scottish road trip, this is our furthest destination, which is the fairy pools on the Isle of Skye. It's a fantastic place. It really is great and worth a visit. All of Skye is worth a visit, and it's hard to pick the single best place to photograph there. But the fairy pools are the quintessential shot, which I'll show you on screen next. So we were heading over to Skye from our last stop at the Packhorse Bridge at Carbridge. Takes about 3 hours to get there, but as you can see, the scenery was absolutely spectacular. This is us arriving at Glen Brittle Forest car park, and you'll notice a few camper vans in there. It's very common for people to overnight in the car park, and indeed we slept in those trees just in front of us. So for our ferry pool shot, we actually used the identical settings to the Packhorse Bridge shot. 1/10 of a second f/22 and ISO 50 or L for low. And that gave us a nice little bit of a balance between having everything in a well exposed shot and also getting some motion blur on the waterfall. The focal length on this one, it was on the 15-35 lens, but it was at 28mm, so roughly halfway between the widest and narrowest focal point. Our subject to detect was set to none, and our shutter mode was electronic, and that's really it for the settings on this one. Okay, you can see from this shot just how clear the fairy pools are. The water really is crisp, quite a few people bathing in it. This was as the sun was setting. We didn't get a nicely lit sky, but it was still good to see the different colours on the rocks at sunset. And this shot here is the fairy glen, not the fairy pools, just a bit further up on Skye. Don't muddle those up. And finally, a little video of it. Okay, so the fairy pools at Skye. It's a splendid place to visit. Very, very pretty. The time of day we were there, it was late afternoon and the sun was very high, fairly cloudless, and it casts quite a basic light on the mountains. So they don't look quite as spectacular as when they've got lots of shadows on them as they get at sunrise and sunset. But it's still a beautiful place, and we can bring out some of that detail. So the first thing we're going to do is that we'll duplicate that layer, and we're going to disregard everything in the foreground. We're just looking at the mountains. We'll bring up levels, Control L, and we're going to shift this left-hand slide of the black point to the right and bring out the colour of those rocks, which is about that. That's about what they look like. From here, we'll add a layer mask, and then we will use a large brush. So we're already at 2,500 pixels. We'll use that, and 25% opacity. And what we're going to do is, with the black colour, we'll paint on the mask, and we'll brighten back up this foreground. So we've pretty well gone back to the same foreground we started with, and just kept those darker mountains. So the original picture was quite washed out, and now we've got a little bit of definition there. I will pull that a little bit further. So I'm on this duplicated image, and I'll bring up levels again, Control L. We'll just pull that a little further. That's it. So we've got some nice colours coming out of the rocks here now, which were there, they were present. It's just quite hard to see. Now if we hold Shift and click on the layer, you can turn it off and see the effect. If we hold Alt and click on it, you can see the layer itself. Now you can see we've got some weaker bits around the edges. I'm just going to fill those in black down at the bottom, so we're pulling through all of the base layer. And then when we go back to look at this, you should see that the rocks here don't change when we bring on the top layer. Okay, so that all looks quite natural. We'll merge these layers together. Now framing it. Framing it's interesting. A lot of the time you see this dead central. In our case, I'm inclined to offset it on the left rule of thirds. Maybe bring up a little foreground there. That might look too left heavy with this big rock and the mountain there. Although it is offset slightly by the shadows on this side versus the light on this side. I don't like the shadows this bush has cast, so I do want to lose that. Okay, let's start cropping here. So we've cropped quite wide, but I think that's a better frame shot. In terms of the water, that looks quite good as it is. I'd like to bring out a little detail there, so we'll use the dodge tool. Okay, so 500 pixel brush on shadows, and we'll use a 13% exposure. That should work well. We'll just brighten that water up a little bit. Okay. The green of the grass could do with coming out a little bit more, so we'll go to vibrance, and we'll bump the vibrance up a bit. That's it, that's plus 36, and saturation plus 8. That's nicer. Now we're starting to have a good image. The rocks look okay. I'll see if they'll stand a little sharpen. So tools, sharpen, unsharp mask. Yeah, 80% at 1 pixelish. That's my go-to, and that looks better. And let's have a quick look at shadows and highlights and see what we can do here. So shadows are going to affect a large amount of this scene. We're only going to do small tweaks though. I think we'll pop that up just 2%. Highlights will affect the sky and the rocks. Again, small changes for us. Just 2% again. Okay. I'll have a quick run through selective colour. Okay, so you can see adding the red in there makes a warmer feel to the image. Okay, so before, after. It's a little bit better. I think I'll pull the reds down a little bit. So Control M for curves and Alt 3 for just red. I'm just going to pull a tiny bit of red out. Okay, that's a bit more natural. I might just blur this water a little bit more. And I'm going to use the smudge tool for that. 30 pixels, and I'll go for about 57%. And I'm just creating a bit more of a long exposure feel with this. So this was a situation where I would normally use a neutral density filter and longer exposures, which will give a similar sort of effect to this. But I wasn't able to carry all my kit because I was on a long trip. So I'll just exaggerate the effect with a bit of a smudge instead. A little bit of a cheat. We could crop this in to be a portrait shot at this point. Lose the right hand side of the image. So this side, is it adding value is really the question. And in all honesty, it's not adding an awful lot. So I might bring that in to sort of here as a natural point. And I think that's a nicer shot. Control L levels, just going to bring that up a little bit more. Okay. That's made this front rock a bit more of a focal point. The water stands out well. I might just dust over that one more time with the dodge tool. And just pull that up a little bit. I think I'm fairly happy with that. That's quite a nice view of the fairy pools. It's a really nice part of Skye, and if you do find yourself on the Isle of Skye, it is worth paying a visit to the pools. The walk up takes half an hour, and it's a fairly level path. If you do park in the Glen Brittle Forest car park like I did, that's a much steeper incline and decline, but it doesn't take long to walk up. And as you can see, it's quite a spectacular view. Do take a neutral density filter if you've got one. It lets you do much longer exposure even in bright conditions like this. But for now, that will complete our edit of the pools. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you haven't been to Skye, I know it's a long way up, but it is well worth the trip. So it takes about 10 hours for me to get to Skye if I go directly, and it's well worth it. It's the 3rd time I've been up there, and I'll certainly be going back again. If you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.